Broadcasting from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, to around the globe. You're listening to Shark Bite Biz, your exclusive place for business strategy, sales, marketing, and tech in the roaring 20s. And now, here's your host, David Strausser.
Welcome to the newest episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm your glamorous host, David Strausser. This is your place to learn how to grow a business during complete global chaos. We are delving into the fitness world once again today. We got an amazing story that shows what's possible when you combine your passions with your love with work. First though, remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can join the channel. For only $3 a month, you can become a baby shark. But if giving money through big tech isn't your thing, don't worry. We got you covered. You can get the freshest coffee available delivered right to your doorstep. deadhousecoffee.com. It's zombie themed. Can't get much cooler than that. And if you use code SHARK, you'll get 20% off of your order, and all the proceeds directly support us producing the biggest and the best show we possibly can. Now let's get back to today's show. I put on 20, maybe 20 plus pounds during COVID. I did it in the beginning, got a routine going, and then because everything got extended, fell out of my routine. Guess what? Put 20 back on. Most people have, so I'm not ashamed of it. I'm happy with who I am, but I am getting back into my routine and will lose that 20 pounds again. No shame on it. My routine was broke. You know, like I was saying, I tried to get it back last year at the beginning of the podcast and broke it again. So we're going to be talking to a fitness guru, a coach, a real leader about what it takes to get healthy. And we're going to talk about the fitness business and some good old personal growth and development. So who is today's guest? None other than Bryce Henson. Bryce Henson is the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, the world's fastest growing fitness boot camp franchise. Having over 10 years of experience in the fitness industry and owning 2 Fit Body Bootcamp locations, his passion is spreading fitness to the world. In addition to mentoring fitness professionals on how to grow their businesses and change more lives in their local communities. So, hey, I'm going to shut up. Let's bring Bryce on in here.
Health and lifestyle.
Bryce, welcome to Shark Bite Biz. You, my friend, you just became Shark Bait.
Nice. Thanks, David. I appreciate you having me, buddy.
Oh, no problem. So we got a tradition on the show. Very first question we ask everybody, what's your experience, where you've been, what do you do now? Basically tell us what makes Bryce.
Ooh, all right.
Loaded question to start it off, right?
Definitely. Well, I am a fitness guy. I'm a fitness professional. It certainly wasn't always that way. But right now I'm the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, which is the world's largest growing indoor franchise bootcamp. We do group training, have hundreds of locations across North America, but way before I was particularly in this seat, I grew up in the Midwest, had a good, relatively good childhood. My parents split at a young age, and I'll kind of spare you the details of that story. But long story short, when I graduated from Michigan State, back in 2004, I had an opportunity to move to California, and certainly I love the Midwest. I was actually just delivering a training out in Chicago, beautiful place and incredible people, but not necessarily the fitness capital of the world. So there I was, 21 years old, about 20 pounds of fat, overweight, had very little muscle on my body, and I got an opportunity to move to California. So I showed up to Los Angeles, palm trees, blue skies. It was incredible.
What year was that?
It was in 2004.
Okay. I asked because I went through a similar experience back in 2001, and when I was 18, though, at that time, But instead of going to LA, it was actually Tijuana, Mexico. And then I lived down there for 15 years. And then eventually found myself up through San Diego, then migrated north to LA, and then migrated back out to Philadelphia. But yeah, I can totally relate with that experience of that culture shock, because I came from rural Pennsylvania. You came from the Midwest. And I know my first times, just going through San Diego and stuff like that, it's totally, totally different. It's hard to explain, but the first time that you see it, it is a culture shock. Is it not?
Totally. And I mean, it was incredible, right? Like, coming to Los Angeles and Hollywood, and I lived in Westwood, which is near UCLA and near Santa Monica. So incredible culture shock. And it had so many positives. But, I was 21 years old, lacked professional skills, lacked life skills. I was 3,000 miles from home. I was unfit. I didn't have any, professional skills to offer the world. So, being honest with you, David, the first year or so, I had a lot more dark days than I did light days. And how I got involved in the fitness industry is through a fortuitous situation. One of my best friends from college ended up moving to Southern California. He actually moved to Orange County, and he wasn't on the cover of Men's Health, but he certainly could have. And he, was a fit guy. All the girls loved him, energy, vibrance. And really how it all worked out is when I lived together with him, it took me a couple months to kind of muster enough courage to ask him, how to lift weights, how to, train well, and really how to be fit. And finally I did. And in early 2007, basically I tagged along with him for a few months at the gym. And ultimately, after a period of 6 months, changed my physique. But as your audience knows, the power of fitness changed my life. And that's really kind of what started my trajectory within the fitness industry.
Well, Bryce, I've got to admit, I'm a little bit bummed. I thought you were going to tell us this awesome Muscle Beach story, but, sorry, I had to throw that out there. But no, seriously, that's a good story. And fitness is one of those things that it's life transformative. I mean, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I used to weigh 350, and it was, low carb. In fact, I put on a couple pounds during the pandemic, and I'm about to go back onto my low carb diet and start doing my exercise routine again, because I've totally lost my routine during this pandemic. I will be the first to admit it, and I've realized that over the past week as I started, having to put on suits again. I'm like, ooh, this is getting a little snug. So I've started slowly working my way back into it, but how important is it to have like a physical fitness routine that keeps you accountable?
Oh, David, it's mission critical. And I always like to say that fitness is the gateway drug. It literally opens up your life. And I was going in at that time for a better physique, which I got, and through discipline, through coaching, through mentorship. But really, fitness gives you way more than that. It gives you mental clarity, more energy, more enthusiasm. At the time I was in the sales industry, and I guess I still am, right? Different role, being, an executive at our company now. But
my thing is, I tell everybody they're always in the sales industry, because you're always selling yourself for something.
Totally. I mean, you're selling yourself to, even connect with your spouse, or, your kids to brush their teeth, or, a real estate negotiation where you need to get into a gym. In any particular, situation, you are in sales. So I completely agree with you there, David.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you what, my personal struggle. So I had a couple undiagnosed health issues. Now, I'm not going to just blame it on that, but that was a big portion of it. I was also eating huge portion sizes. It wasn't that I was like chowing down on just unhealthy food. It was more portion size and, different things like thyroid issues, stuff like that. But once I got that thyroid under control, then I was able to actually start losing weight once I put the work into it. I tell you what, during the Great Recession, I was hit very hard. it was very, very hard for me to get employment. And that's why I had to do an independent consulting gig.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was 350 pounds, because the moment that I lost the weight, I started getting instantly full-time employment offers at six-figure salaries once I got down to 200 pounds. Like,
Oh,
it's a night and day difference. I'm the same person, same experience, but I was 150 pounds lighter.
well, I would argue you're not the same person because you go through this physiological mental change
No.
and, ultimately just rocks your soul. And to your point, at that point in my life, I was, when I went through my transformation, it was a small
Mhm.
company. There was a team of about 15 sales rep, but I went from one of the least performing sales rep to the highest performing sales rep within a 12-month clip. And to your point, it's because fitness gave me that foundation. So I think it's just so important, whether you're in the fitness industry or not, to really lead a healthy and fit life. Will really just make you more successful in all aspects of your life.
Right, right. So back with your story, that how did you had the mentor, the friend, and you were in a sales rep. I mean, how did that lead to you actually being into the fitness industry with what you're doing now?
Yeah, well, I'll actually story tell a little bit because you mentioned that you moved to Tijuana, Mexico for 15 years. Did I hear that
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah. I
So,
worked for the Mexican government actually for 2 years, which is
wow.
crazy. As a white guy from rural Pennsylvania, you don't hear that very often, do you?
No, not at all. And for me, I'll tell a South American story. I lived in Brazil. I decided to move to Brazil for a couple of years, but before I
Yeah.
did that, I went through my own transformation in 2007, and then about a couple of years in, I started going to the gym, and people would start asking me how I lift weights, how I eat clean, and then the light bulb hit me. Even though I was very passionate about my sales career, what if I could be a coach and help some people on the nights and weekends in the form of personal training? So I did what the only
That's
logical
cool.
thing would be to do, would be to get certified, and I found the gold standard of certification, which is the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So I got
Mhm.
certified as a personal trainer, went through that coursework, and I think I updated my Facebook profile to certified personal trainer to kind of start marketing myself. Never in a million years did I think this would be a full-time career, just kind of a
Right.
side hustle, a hobby. And when I updated my profile, I started becoming, or started to get served ads, Facebook ads, by a gentleman named Bedros Koulian, who is now a dear friend of mine, who started Fit Body Bootcamp as the founder, and an incredible name in the fitness industry. So once I started receiving his ads, then I got introduced to Fit Body Bootcamp, which is a franchise. And I started following along, doing the research. But then, David, that's when I actually decided to go on a 2-year sabbatical to the south of Brazil. And I lived
Yeah.
there, had an incredible life experience. I ended up, meeting my
With
wife.
ayahuasca by any chance?
No,
No, that's Peruvian. I
yeah,
lived in Peru too. So
okay. Interesting. Yeah. We're,
yeah,
we're men on the move.
yeah. What was your life changing story down there in Brazil though?
Well, it's interesting that when I was working for the sales company, the company was based in San Francisco, but I was in Southern California doing remote sales. And
Mhm.
this is actually before the pandemic and COVID, where, remote was kind of a common thing now. But I was, kind of getting a little stagnant, and I took a trip to Brazil the Christmas before. And coming from the Midwest, I actually grew up in Michigan. My
Yeah.
days, I remember Christmas shoveling like a foot of snow. So I
Yep.
roll up to the beaches of Rio de Janeiro, which the day before Christmas, it's, middle of the summer,
Yep.
just amazing. And I'm like, you know what? I want to come back here. So that's exactly what I did. I ended up going back to California for about 6 to 12 months, ended up asking my boss if I could take a little sabbatical, if I could work remotely for a year, which
Mhm.
turned into 2. So really, when my time down there, I was still working for remotely in my home office that I arranged,
Right.
but I was just kind of living this, different experience, a different look at life, which it sounds like you've experienced as well from your time in Peru and Mexico.
Yeah. I did. And it really, I mean, I only lived down in Peru for about a year, but I mean, I did marry a Peruvian, and because
Oh,
of
cool.
that, I go back. In fact, half my Peruvian family came here during our summer, which is Peru's winter, and
Yep.
well, Lima's winter. And it's because COVID is so bad down there right now. Like it's terrible. They all came up here to kind of escape it because it's flu season down there. So, but outside of this COVID time, I go down there a lot. I got to see some cool stuff like the Nazca lines, an actual desert oasis out there in Peru, which there's only, I guess, one in all of South America where there's an oasis, like
Wow.
lake in the middle of a huge desert. So we got to do a lot of cool stuff down there. I love it. Beautiful. But my thing when I was in Mexico or Peru, or when I've been to Colombia, Ecuador, I don't really like doing the touristy things, like, yes, I go to Ecuador. I want to go to the equator and go to 00 and get my selfie. Yeah. But outside of that, I try to see, I like walking through another person's shoes. I like seeing life, how locals live it. And that's probably what you were doing when you were living down there in Rio de Janeiro, because, you got there originally first for the first couple months. You probably did some touristy things because you've never seen it before. But outside of that, you were probably living closer to a lifestyle, almost like a hybrid, like half local, half American, exactly. Trying to break some American habits that are different down there. I know in Peru, it was really hard for me to find fresh milk. It's also that boxes on the shelf. And I'm like, how do you sell milk on boxes on the shelf? So there's things like that, cultural differences, but it really formulated me into who I am today. And it sounds like your 2 years down there in Brazil had a big, huge impact into just opening your eyes to who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, you can relate as well. When you put yourself out there, and while I visited Rio de Janeiro for the first time, and I've been there about 10 times in my life because my wife's family is originally from there, I actually decided to move to an island in the very south next to the Uruguayan border called Florianopolis. And the reason I did that, in the last 15 years, has become a vacation destination for all of South America, has 47 beaches, beautiful place. But I wanted to go off the beaten path. I really wanted to kind of get away from Western culture, American culture, because I wanted to kind of live like a Brazilian for that period of time. And to your point, it just gave me a huge perspective.
That's exactly.
In fact, there's a philosophy that I follow called Stoic philosophy, and which you probably are fully aware of. And I carry a coin in my pocket called, says memento mori. It's Latin. Stands for,
oh my God. I'm telling you, we've got to be twins.
There we go, buddy.
Right here.
There we go.
Right. Can you, wow, my mind is blown. And this is something that I think special about this show. I get people like you to come on and tell your stories, and it just blows my mind how similar my stories are to a lot of just random people like you. How many commonalities I have with all these entrepreneurs. And this is probably why I do what I do. And I like to kind of share stories both ways to kind of see how the experience is to compare. So that way the listeners or the viewers, they can get different perspectives on things, and hopefully it helps them grow as well too.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think that we actually have the same coin. Is it from Ryan Holiday, like his following?
Yeah. I just dropped it, right?
Yeah.
My mind is totally blown with that. But yeah, it's the same thing, and to me, it's like, you can die at any time. Right.
And I think for me, what I took from that experience is, like, life is finite. You got to take big shots. You really only have one spin at this globe, or at least that's what we know, right? Guaranteed. And it could vanish at any point. So you might as well live life to the fullest. And in my perspective, and I think a learning lesson or a message I want to share with your audience is, oftentimes I find myself, and I went back home to Michigan to visit my brother and family, but kind of observing some people that typically sometimes live the same life over and over and over, same year over and over and over. And, no disrespect, but for me, I want to attack life in a different way. And I really want to have as many experiences as possible, because as much as I want to be a very successful businessman, which I'm currently on that path, and even more so, at the end of the day, David, you can't take it with you. And the only thing you have to latch onto when you look back at your life is the people and the experiences that you shared. So that's for me why it's important, as a stark reminder to take big shots at life.
Oh, yeah. That's funny that you say that too, because everybody asked me, do you miss LA? And to be honest, I do not miss LA. There's a lot of challenges, I'll put it nicely there, I think, right now. But the experiences of LA is what I miss. Like, for example, I went into a bar to see this random band called the Boxmasters on the border of Beverly Hills and Hollywood. Called the bar was called the Mint. Okay. I didn't know Billy Bob Thornton, the famous actor, was actually the lead singer of the band. I didn't know I was going to meet Slash from Guns N' Roses, who was at the show just hanging out with everybody. The kid from Sixth Sense, or, and I'm there drinking shots with these people. Ron Jeremy was there too, which was weird, but
keep it interesting.
Yeah. But, it was, it just like those types of experiences is what I live for. They're unique, and just, they have some way of finding me. I believe in the law of what is it? Attractiveness, that you attract what you feel. And I think I attract those unique experiences. And that's why I love my life.
Holy man, that's awesome. I think it's just the law of physics, right? People saying karma. I mean, really, it's energy out. And I look at it from a physics framework. So I completely agree with the law of attraction. Whatever you put out in the energy in the universe, like, you're going to get right back. And, so I guess, kind of finishing my story.
Law of attraction. Not attractiveness. I said attractivedness. Law of attraction is what I meant. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. So in any case, kind of pick up where I left off, I ended up having this amazing Brazilian adventure, met my wife, gained some best friends, a family, had this incredible experience. And all while I was there, I was, still working remotely for the company in a sales capacity. But I had been on the email list of Bedros. So I was paying attention a little bit more to Fit Body Bootcamp as 2012 kind of, came by, and I knew that I was coming back to California. So when I knew I was coming back to California, those last few months, I started really paying attention into the franchise opportunity, did as much as research as I humanly could. And when I got back, I scheduled a meeting with him at our franchise. And within 5 minutes, I knew this is exactly what I want to do with my career. Fitness had changed my life, and I really want to give that, gift of fitness, that gateway drug, if you will, back to others. And that's when I signed my franchise agreement, ended up opening my first gym, my first Fit Body location in a little town called Yorba Linda, which is in Orange County, about an hour south of Los Angeles. And that's really, kind of when my career in fitness formally took hold. And over the following 9 years, opened more gyms, scaled to 5 locations, ended up becoming the vice president of our brand a few years ago with the invitation of Bedros, because of the networking opportunities. And I think that's a huge message to your audience, is like, the quick bucks in the transaction, but really the wealth's in the relationship, and really developing strong relationships, which, but certainly want to reinforce for your audience, has really put me in a place where then I could, become in the leadership team, assume the CEO role, and really help steer our brand, as we move through, hopefully, the end of this pandemic and onward.
Personal relationships are so important. I mean, it's not, a lot of people think about relationships in terms of networking, but it's also, I view it like the personal relationships I have, not with people I'm trying to sell, but also my base clients, with my employees. I treat everybody equally. I'm transparent like that, for better or for worse, but I think it allows them to respect me more, because everybody knows that they're being treated the same way. And I like having an intimate personal relationship with every single person I meet, because I think that way then you're able to really judge the character of the people, the company that you're working with, and if essentially, can you count on them, or will they screw you the first chance they get?
And actually, speaking of that, and calling off your experience, David, in terms of the relationship and being a sounding board, one of really the best opportunities, one of the reasons I was awarded the franchise or the leadership, the vice president role, which then turned into a CEO role, is because I joined not only the franchise, but I joined a coaching group now that I co-lead with a good friend of mine, dear friend named Matt Wilbur. And we run this coaching program. In that coaching program, I was able to, have a few different on-site physical experiences with, Bedros at our headquarters, and really get to know him over the years. And as I say, I sat in rooms with him on business meeting rooms, how to basically brainstorm growth strategies, really how to, figure out how to grow businesses for close to 7 years before the opportunities afforded to me. So, ultimately from Bedros's perspective, credit to him, because when he offered me the position, it was a known entity. There was no really guesswork, because he had known me for a very long time. And I think that's just a really big takeaway for your audience from your own experience, from mine experience. But if you really want to get ahead of business, like I said, I think I don't know if I reframed it correctly, but there's money in the transaction, but there's wealth in the relationship. And that's a big message I want to hit home today.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful message. And I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head. We've actually had a lot of fitness trainers, personal trainers, people like that on this show. Now, it was either because they transitioned into this role. I think one of the first people we had on, Jess Tarleton, she was actually a funeral director and transformed into a fitness trader. And she's like, believe it or not, there's a lot of overlap there. So, the most recent one, which actually has already aired or will have aired by the time this episode comes out, is the guy Mari. And basically he came out with his own actual tea, because unlike you, where you went with your business, he's like, I'm a certified trainer. I believe he had the same type of certification or pretty close to what you have. And he's like, I'm getting older. I'm 55. I just can't keep training forever. I needed a business opportunity. So instead of trying to scale his business, he basically came up with this amazing idea of putting granulated honey inside of tea bags to make it more convenient for tea drinkers. And it's starting to take off. So what I'm impressed with you is, you're on the other side of that, to where you're actually, building this 8-figure international franchise, which is huge. I mean, how challenging is that to keep scaling when you have this pandemic going on, to where, I mean, there was a lot of crazy things with the shutdown, especially out there where you're at in California, and how strict they are. How hard has it been to continue with that dream and to continue growing during the last, 18 months?
I mean, being very candid, extremely challenging. And I know a lot of other industries and businesses suffered as well. Specifically the fitness industry, the restaurant industry, there's, quite a few others that were hard hit. For ours, it was hit hard as well. But we made some pivots, and our leadership team really rose to the occasion. Our owners really banded it together. We certainly, had some contraction, just like any fitness brand across the world, because of the severe lockdown, specifically in states like California, New York, New Jersey, Michigan. But ultimately, through strong leadership, through one of our core values is to embrace and drive change, we were able to pivot immediately to virtual training, provided a lot of ongoing support for our franchisees. We started doing Facebook Lives on a daily basis. We started doing weekly trainings, all to basically provide support, from our headquarters, to really help our owners who were in the trenches to kind of ride that wave where they had to shut down their businesses. But we took the mentality—
Digital transformation.
I'm sorry?
Digital transformation.
And we took the mentality that we're not personal trainers per se. I mean, that's what we do. We're coaches, but really what we're doing is we're selling a result. and we're selling an experience, and we could actually do that virtually, just like you and I are talking now. So I think through, some innovation and, a long, hard road, we were able to kind of fight and keep things afloat. And actually our founder, who I've referred to, Bedros, he was featured on Fox News a few times throughout the pandemic, just because of the different programs and the modalities that we created to support our franchisees. And really the last point I'll hit on that is, it was interesting. We actually just hired a new franchise business coordinator, a sales rep, because things are now kind of kicking back in full gear. I mean, literally we just signed 7 new franchisees up this month, new additional locations. And one of our new franchise coordinator or advisor, he actually previously last year in the pandemic, 2020, he was finishing up his agreement with a very well-known fitness franchise, which I won't say name names, but as it turns out in the interview, what he told us is he was actually following both myself, Bedros, and our leadership team just to see what our moves were the pandemic, because their franchise wasn't able to support them. So they actually took the modalities that we created and actually just implemented in their own fitness concept. So as it turns out, it wasn't pretty. We're still going through a challenge, which is the truth of it, but we've risen to the occasion. And that's why for us, the outlook is like, because if we can succeed in such a challenge.
There were bumps in the road. It wasn't easy. What kind? So as you did it digitally, I mean, I've got to ask, what kind of adoption did you have? Because, and I'll use this as an example. Think of webinars, okay? Pre-pandemic, if there's a webinar, most people really didn't take that serious, at least nearly as serious as one in person, okay? How does that kind of compare with the fitness? I mean, did people take it serious in the beginning? Was there a learning curve of finding the right recipe to get and keep people engaged? Can you explain some of that?
Oh, I mean, total learning curve. And we actually built a virtual electronic app in the process, just to basically partner with an organization to execute that. But a huge learning curve. What we did, David, was this. We know because we have a coaching program where typically our clients are coming into our studios, they're getting live group training. That was taken away from us. But if you think about it, it was taken away for all other gyms, all other group training facilities as well. So, even though it wasn't pretty, and certainly many clients canceled or went on hold, there was still, 70+% of our clientele across the board who needed to work out. They couldn't do it at home by themselves. They needed that accountability. So what we did was we took a two-pronged approach. Number one, we started and encouraged and kind of provided guidance to our franchisees to start streaming live sessions through Zoom, just like we're talking about now. On the same session time. So typically our average owner has 4 sessions in the morning, 4 sessions in the evening. So to transition, instead of actually in-person training, for the coach to actually, get on film through Zoom in a live setting on the same specific time. So that way our clients could actually train from the comfort of their home or their garage, but still with the same coach, because we are in the relationship business first and foremost, but with the same coach, and still get a great workout. So that was the first pronged approach that we did. And then secondly, because we have the ability, we have hundreds of owners, tens of thousands of clients worldwide. We're able to leverage one of our, stud franchisees, who's actually a franchise business coach, and him and his team, actually from South Dakota, Sioux Falls. If you're listening, give shout out to you guys. But they actually started shooting pre-recorded videos. So we took that two-pronged approach where we would deliver on a daily basis pre-recorded videos, so that way our clients can follow along at home whenever it was a good fit for them, but then also providing that live interactive, training via Zoom. So they still had the option to actually train with their own coach from afar. So that pivot was actually, and we did it within 24 hours of actually us being closed. I think March 16th was the date. And that laid the foundation for a lot of retention, and really was huge in our ability to actually see the pandemic through at least the first wave of shutdowns.
That's pretty awesome. So I want to change topics a little bit here, and let's talk. I know earlier on we were talking about my personal weight struggles, but in 2021, I mean, is obesity still a challenge in America?
Oh my goodness, David. Well, listen, I just literally got back from Chicago, Illinois, where we deliver these regional trainings. So my brother, who's our director of coaching and profitability, myself, and a few other
Mhm.
franchise business coaches, and we deliver this 3-day training for owners, for facility leaders, and for coaches. And one of my presentations is actually the obesity pandemic, which honestly is the biggest pandemic, which is just a shame that's not talked about. There's actually 4.7 million people, depending on the study from the US
Right.
CDC, that die prematurely because of obesity related conditions, from heart disease, from diabetes. And the problem is it's getting worse. And right now, the last report that the CDC put out in terms of obesity was 2018, and our country is 42% obese. And you look at the clip from 2018, that
Mhm.
obesity rate increased at a clip of 2.6% per year. So we're realistically about above 45% right now. And projections are saying that if the trend continues at this rate, there will be 50% of our population of the United States of America by 2030 will be statistically obese. And the huge problem with that is obesity causes massive problems for, it basically compounds any other disease. So COVID, that's why you've seen in the
Yep.
in the news, the vast majority of hospitalizations are people with
Hospitalizations. Yep.
obese. Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke. I mean, it literally just compounds every other health condition. And that's why, we have huge passion here at Fit Body Bootcamp to inspire fitness and change lives, which is
Mhm.
way more than a tagline. I mean, it is our mission, but it's really our life's work because of the big challenges, facing our country.
Oh yeah. I mean, like one of the things you said earlier about once you got into shape, you had more energy, stuff like that. I mean, I can testify for that as well too. I mean, one of the big things is I think my body temperature like changed because once I dropped down like 150 pounds, like I realized like, oh wow, I'm getting colder now. I don't have as much warmth as I used to.
But
And
yeah,
even
well, good for
now,
you. Good for you. That just it fires
yeah.
me up, and like success stories like you is really just what it's all about from our
Yeah,
perspective.
I mean, I've kept it off for about 7 years and probably gained, you know, I think maybe 20 pounds during the pandemic right now, but now I'm kind of aware of it, so it's going to come off quick. What kind of nutritional guidelines do you usually live by?
Well, we provide nutrition coaching, but specifically to me, I mean,
Yeah.
macronutrient based nutrition is really the first principles or the building blocks of
Hmm.
nutrition. But aside from that, even at more of a lower level, if a client or if a listener at home can drink half their weight in body ounces a day, sleep at least
Yep.
7 hours a day, and then just clean up their nutrition, lean proteins, fruits, vegetables. But here's the biggest thing, and I learned this from a book called Tiny Habits by a gentleman, I think his name's BJ Fogg. The reality of the situation is if an audience or one of your listeners, their nutrition's completely out of whack, they're not sleeping, they're not hydrated, the
Hmm.
chances of them tomorrow all of a sudden doing a 180-degree turn is actually very, very low likelihood. What actually
All right.
is proven to get you the best results is take one habit, like one thing, whether it's maybe eating more protein, maybe it's reducing sugar, maybe it's increasing your water, maybe it's increasing your sleep. Those are 4 things that will dramatically help you. But instead of trying to attack all 4 at once, which people get all excited, and then 2 weeks later they get burned out, that's not going to help anyone long term. So just take one little habit that you can adjust with your nutrition, and that will actually long term make a difference. Because then after you master that habit, 90 days, 120 days go by, let's
Right.
tack on another habit. And before you know it, 12 months go by, you've changed 3 habits, which actually has changed your life.
Yeah, yeah. For me personally, I think it probably was a mix. We ate a lot more pizza, I think, than we normally would have because, the restaurant situation was kind of weird around here with some that went out of business, stuff like that. So pizzas always go to with the kids. It's easy, they don't really like sushi. They're 3 and 8, so
Sure.
understandable, I guess. But it was also the lack of activity because the lack of what I could do. And I think it was just a combo of things. But for me personally, I've always what I lost my weight on was mostly the low carb diet. Sugar's never really been a problem. It's more just like carbs being, like the breads and, the processed foods and stuff like that. And just really cutting that out, doing protein shakes during a day, and then having, some kind of big piece of protein with small size vegetables there for some nutrients is something that has been a good recipe for me.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. It's like, just take one small habit, but to your point, reducing, well, I guess you said never had an issue with sugar, but starting to replace some of these foods and having, higher dense foods and nutrients is going to help your digestive system. It's going to help you sleep better. I mean, literally it's across the board. But the last point that you just mentioned was the physical activity, which was this challenge, especially with a lot of these shutdowns. And speaking of actually the obesity pandemic, and again, something I teach on, only 23% of the US population, according to CDC, get enough physical activity. And they define that by 2 days of moving your body, some resistance training, and then 2.5 hours of brisk walking every single week. Now, no disrespect, because any movement is better, but those guidelines, I mean, that bar is not that high. The reality of the situation is most people should be, engaging in at least 3 times per week, high intensity exercise to get your metabolic rate up, to get your cardiovascular system moving, and then to build muscle. And if you build muscle, you can actually burn more calories at a steady state. And you put it all together. I mean, that's really the formula for fitness success.
So I'm lucky. I live in a circle. I would probably get somewhere between, I would do a lot of meetings just, on my cell phone, wearing a pair of headphones, doing laps, and I'd get anywhere from 15 to 25,000 steps a day.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Every single day up until the pandemic hit. What broke it was we got COVID in our family like very, very early. I think it was the end of March of 2020. We got it, and at that time it took us like nearly 2 weeks just to get the results back before we got the positive test back. And then, so everybody's in the house, we didn't leave or anything, and I think that's what broke the habit. But now we're starting to get back one by one, like you were saying, doing it one piece at a time. I can't just get back into our old routine overnight. So one last question I have before we wrap up is, this was an awesome interview. We've talked about so many different things so far. Totally. What do you think your calling, your message to the world is?
Ooh, that's actually, I'm going to take a 2-part question. Really, my calling is going back to fitness is the foundation of your life. So if you can increase your fitness, it is the gateway drug to a better life in all aspects of your life. You'll be a better family man, a better husband, a better parent, a better spouse, right, a better child, a better coworker. So really without your health and without your fitness, you don't have anything. And I think there's a famous adage saying, a wealthy person, a person with their health has a million wishes, but the person without their health who's sick has one wish, which is to get healthy. So I want to start there, which is my calling. And that's really why I'm passionate to continue to move our brand forward so we can help inspire fitness and change lives. But my message is kind of going back to a little bit of a stoicism. It can sound dark, but the reality of the situation is contrary to what your politicians these days or the media these days are talking about, how this person's going to come save you or this handout's going to save you. That's not going to happen. If you're looking to make a change in your life, no one is coming to save you, David. No one is coming on a white horse to pick you up and to save you. The reality of the situation is you need to save yourself. And it starts with you. It starts with personal discipline. It starts with personal responsibility. And I think that's my biggest big message, especially in today's day and age with so much stuff we see, that I really want to kind of hit home. And really, if you're for your audience, I want your audience to take this mentality. For any success I've achieved to date, it's because of this mentality. If it has to be, it's up to me. And when you take personal responsibility, you take personal accountability and responsible for your own life, then magic happens, bliss happens, and the world opens up to you.
Own it. Own it. That's one thing I've always I always said, like, hey, if you mess up, fall on your sword, own it, and get past it.
Yes, sir.
You don't dread on things you can't change. And, I think you summed it up there perfectly. So let me ask you, how can people digitally stalk you out there on the internet?
Stalk me. That's interesting terminology. I love it. My handle, both on Instagram, both on Facebook, both on LinkedIn, digitally, is real Bryce Henson. So not fake Bryce Henson, real Bryce Henson. And you spell Bryce Henson BRYCE, and then Henson HENSON. So that's where you can find me. Please reach out. Shoot me a note. I'd be happy to engage.
Hey, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Bryce, for coming out here. I had fun. This was a great conversation, man.
I had a blast. I appreciate you. And this was an incredible time. Thank you so much. And I know your audience and hopefully at least got a ton of value today.
Oh, I hope so too. I think they will. And I definitely want to get you back on this show sometime next year.
Boom. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cheers. Thank you. Wow. That was such an awesome conversation with Bryce. Totally loved it. First, though, you all know the routine. If you found this interview helpful, if it inspired you, if it gave you some good ideas, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. But if you really want to help us out, please share us out to your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, your family. Share us out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever it is that you dwell on the interwebs. I would love nothing more than Fit Body Bootcamp, Bryce, and Shark Bite Biz out there trending. Now, let's get back to our super fit guest, Bryce. He had some awesome points. I really love talking with Bryce. I had to chime in and interrupt him a few times, but you all know me. I love interactive chats. I love getting down to the real gritty, life and persona of people, because I think where they've been and what they've done gives more validation and credibility to what they're doing now. And that's what happens when I talk with somebody like Bryce, especially because, it really blows my mind with how similar we are. We were two complete strangers before this interview. And it comes down to, we both have the same dang coin in our pockets with the memento mori. And, I went to Mexico and then Peru, and that really shaped my character. He went to Brazil. The similarities between us are literally endless. Okay, well, they probably end somewhere like he's much more fit and better looking than me. But all joking aside, when can you match up with somebody like Bryce and you have so many commonalities with somebody like him? It probably means that you're doing a lot of the right stuff, okay? Bryce is a very successful dude. If I'm matching up with him and we have a lot in common, that means that I'm doing a lot of the right steps, my own life, my own business life, because Bryce is a model of success. So one note on the foreign travel. Think about how many guests we have had on this very show, okay? Where they all say that, they've taken the path outside of the tourist zone. And that is really what allowed them to see what life really means to 99% of the world, okay? When you get off that beaten path, that is how real life is for people globally. Yes, of course, people in Africa, in a poorer area, and people in South America in a poor area. Obviously, there's cultural differences, food differences, stuff like that. But it's all pretty much the same when you get down to that degree. And it really allowed him to appreciate the opportunities he has had living in America and to be even more grateful and humble. I think it also fostered into some of his mentality of wanting to help people better themselves and being a pillar, a real foundation for people to lean on and to learn off of. And that, my friend, is authenticity. And that is why when I do these interviews, we go down the rabbit holes because I want to hear stories just like that. The obesity question is something that really hit home for me. I've said many times on this show about my prior weight struggles, and I'm not talking about me losing my path and gaining 20 pounds due to COVID. I'm talking about my weight being 150 plus pounds more than what I am now. You've got to know your body. Everybody is different. The carnivore diet is probably where I'm going to be heading, but that's not for all. It may be keto, low carb, vegan, or vegetarian even for some. Find out what is the right balance for you and your body by speaking to your doctor, and build up healthy habits and routines around that. Like Bryce was saying, having routines is critical for the ultimate success. Lastly, it's quite impressive, the empire that Bryce is building. I mean, he turned fitness training into an 8-figure international business for himself. That is incredible. Just 2 episodes ago, in episode 114 with Mari Pittman, you might remember him. He was the Mari's High Tea guy. He's somebody that's like, hey, I'm getting out of personal training. I'm getting older. Instead of trying to build an empire out of the fitness industry, he shifted gears and he found a new innovative way to make tea, and he's chasing that dream as his long-term dream. And that's awesome too. But here we are. A lot of people, as they get older, they get out of the industry like that. They look for ways out, something that could be more self-sustaining. Not Bryce. Bryce built an 8-figure empire. I mean, to me, that just blows my mind. And he really, I give him credit because Bryce is standing by what he loves and just really seizing the opportunities that he was given from his mentor to build such a successful business. I really think he's just starting to scratch the surface of what Fit Body Bootcamp can ultimately do. Hey, Bryce, I just want to thank you personally for coming on here, sharing your advice, giving us your story. I definitely think it's going to help a lot of our viewers out there. Question of the day: how have you maintained your routine during COVID? Please leave a message down below. We'd love to hear your routine and how you've maintained it, or maybe how you lost it during COVID. Either way, interesting story. Leave a comment. Love to hear it. Remember, do you want to be on the show? If so, send out an email, interviews@sharkbitebiz.com. Please don't forget, join the channel, $3 a month. You could become a baby shark, or you can head on over to get some of the freshest coffee ever made at deadhousecoffee.com. Use code SHARK. You'll get 20% off of your order, and you all know this by now. I'm David Strausser. This is Shark Bite Biz. We'll see you all next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Shark Bite Biz. We hope you got some insightful info from this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us through your favorite podcast app and visit us on the web at www.sharkbitebiz.com. How has business changed for you in the 20s? Email us at podcast@sharkbitebiz.com so you can join us and share your story.